the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone, good evening. Let's see, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any comment on that agenda item?
Just a question, is that also accepting the notes from?
No, that's next.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item C, the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All right, any discussion?
Just on the bills paid, for me anyway, I mean, there's a bit of overtime in the fire department. The thing I wanted to bring up was I know it's gonna come out sooner or later, the County of Marin, the design review application and cancel, those two are tied together, I believe.
I don't know, I mean, tied together, but yeah, those are two of his latest invoices. Where are you looking? Oh, yeah.
Oh, 3183 and 3180.
3183 is the actual fee that the county charges.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 3189 was his latest invoice.
Which needed to be for the application.
Correct.
Okay.
All additional materials.
All right.
Anything else from the board?
No, I got all my questions answered already.
Okay, questions, comments from the public?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the right area to talk about it, but the PNR Commission report from January that was approved, let's see, what was it, meeting notes, whatever you call it. Anyhow, there was significant distortions of fact in it. In fact, I think there were very slanderous comments made about me, which I would like to be corrected for the record. There was a statement saying that there was a threat made, or a threat was perceived against commissioners, and if you actually listen to the video, you can, the question was,
So Stephen, I'm going to interrupt because that's actually not part of the consent calendar. That would be later on in the...
That'll be later? Okay, fine. Then
Yeah.
what I want to, I'll talk about that later. So the question I had was concerning the art show expenses, and appears that, I don't, that's art and wine show, correct? So there was expenses going out and obviously income coming in. I don't know if we can talk about this now, but I noted that there was $1,000 worth of food. Luke got paid $350 for art show expenses. Robin got paid $350 for expenses. I don't know if someone else got paid $350 for expenses. All seemed rather expensive to me. And I really would like to know if these art shows are bringing in money or we're spending money, and how this money is being spent. I assume part of it is labor, and I don't know how much of those art show expenses are labor. Would that be broken out, Eric? Labor expenses for art show expenses?
I don't think we had any labor expenses for that, to be quite honest with you.
And I would say, like, I would actually say, let's take these are questions that I would expect you to ask Eric before the meeting, rather than taking a meeting time with this, because this is not a back and forth, this is public comment for items.
Well, I thought we were trying to understand the expenses, and so...
No, that's what you do as staff outside of the
I
meeting.
see.
This is a business
So,
meeting.
okay, so there's a problem because I actually have been sending in communications and not received responses, so I don't actually know what, how you expect there to be staff or interaction when it's a one-way communication. Lastly, I don't see expense, maybe it's the county of Marin, I'm not sure, but you've hired an armed police officer at the last 3 or 4 meetings, I'm not sure. That's not free, and I'd like to know how much you were spending for it and why you feel that the expense is worth more than, say, new swing set, handrail for elderly people in the park,
Okay, so your
road repair.
comment time is up, Stephen. So thank you
So-
for your
so
comment,
can-
and I'd be happy to address and answer your last question. It's my understanding that it is $75 an hour for officers from the Marin County Sheriff's
I'm
Department.
sorry, point of order. Could you please speak up? I can't hear you.
Yes, my understanding is that there is a fee of $75 an hour for a sheriff's deputy to be here, and that this has been done to maintain public decorum and also safety, because there are a number of people who have felt threatened by members of the public acting inappropriately. So we have not been billed for this, and if we are, I think that this is a fair expense in order to keep our meetings safe and open to the public.
Okay, so
This is not
you need
about
to
it.
provide a little bit
Point-
more
okay,
information
so
specific
we're moving on.
to the expense.
All right, so now I'm gonna bring it back up here. Can I call the question on the consent calendar? All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'm sorry, you didn't end the,
Oh, you're
you didn't
right.
end it yet.
You're right, sorry. Oop.
Please advise us when it's ending, because I do want to ask a question.
Okay, sorry, so there you go, now back up. Any other comments on the consent calendar?
Yes,
Yes.
actually, my comment was why the officer, the armed officer who was in the meetings, his expenses do not show up in the expense
As I
report.
said, we have not been billed.
How, we have not been billed for 3 months now?
That's my understanding.
Okay, and do you know how much he or she will cost us?
Did you hear my response? I just responded.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so $75 an hour.
How much an hour?
75.
$5?
75.
Thank you.
Any other public, comments from the public on the consent calendar? All right, just so we're official, let's call the question again, in case I think, since that was out of order before. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item D, public comment, open time for items not on the agenda. Linda?
Okay, I'm gonna read this. And please do not interrupt me and do not criticize me while I'm doing this. I would like to just read it nice and slowly and quietly. Okay. There are many new items shown in the recent drawings that the public has never seen for the new maintenance shed facility thingy. And some of the new design has many inefficiencies that are going to cause more outdoor storage and less open space due to the maneuverability problems. One thing I did notice, maybe nobody else did, but the drive-through inside the building is no longer a straight drive-through, it's a zigzag. So just wanted to make sure everybody remembered or knew or saw that it goes up diagonally through the west yard, then it goes straight across through the middle of the Eichler Storage Shop building, directly alongside the restrooms and restroom and break room, so I don't know about exhaust fumes, but, and then it goes diagonally downward out the eastern yard. So that makes a big difference inside when you're talking about maneuverability. Both of the yards show no turnaround areas for vehicles exiting the facility. The east side goes into a swampy area, then down to the meadows, and the west side is near the horseshoe pits and near the neighbors' fences. So I don't know if this was intentionally left off, because there is something that the guys do now, going down into the meadow, turning around into the meadow instead of turning around in the mud in the swampy area where the big park truck is parked outside. And the drawing does not show outdoor storage areas for vehicles and equipment and debris piles of trash and vegetation and dirt and maintenance stuff and stuff that goes to the dump. So I would have expected that somewhere someone would plan where these open areas for all the piles of debris and stuff that we have now, because it's not gonna fit in the building or the yards. The swampy area, which is about 30 by 30 east of the current office trailer, is, nobody knows why it's there or what it's from. And there's a long white pipe exiting near the top of the creek bank across from the swampy area. And from what I've heard, nobody knows, no investigation resulting in a cause for the swamp and the drain pipe. And then I was also wondering if this possibly could be related to the 2 sinkholes that we now have along the pedestrian lane. It may be, the sinkholes may be a precursor of what is to come along the Panhandle Trail. So I think this area should be investigated, because what if we have sinkholes, right underneath the new facility area? There is not enough room for a driveway outside the facility, and we've been told that there is one. We know it's needed, we know it'll be utilized, and we know that the large facility, which extends over on top of the existing Panhandle driveway, covers up the existing driveway. So we know we need some sort of a driveway, because there will be people driving, including people. A new portion of the multi-purpose trail should go anywhere except possibly at the top of the creek bank, as had been drawn previously for a year, and that's the way it is in the drawing now. But because of the building coming way over the existing driveway, there's not enough room for another driveway and a trail for people. And if we do have it right at the edge of the creek bank, we're gonna have lots of runoff, erosion, sediment, debris, kids running up and down into the creek. The open space is going to be very reduced if you think about all these issues.
Linda,
Of
can you wrap it up? Your
stuff.
3 minutes.
The 150-foot long facility must be narrowed for the environment's sake, and the zigzag driveway through the building and entry and exit points should be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Stephen?
Yes, we can just continue to sit down here. We now are up to about $30,000 of expenses. Tonight's we're talking about the budgets, and I'm very concerned that there is a lack of rigor in the budgets. We don't know our expenses, we don't know our income, and we don't seem to be able to plan. Nobody has said anything about how much they have budgeted for this big project, which looks to be like maybe one of the most expensive maintenance facilities in Marin history. Bill Hansel's budget, we don't have an approved plan yet, and we're up to $30,000, which I will note that prefab units start around $10,000. So we're going at this a very expensive way. It looks like a runaway project, something that we can ill afford with our maintenance needs of the pool, as well as our paying our pension obligations and healthcare expenses. I urge the board to use caution here. There's a lot of problems up ahead. That's all.
Thank you for your comment. Anything else?
Just a request in terms of the budgeting process and perspective long-term. If there's any guidance long-term of what that looks like in terms of meeting those long-term pension obligations, whether it's more programs to bring in revenue, whether it's property taxes or lowering expenses, or a combination of three. It would be interesting to see 3 to 5 years what that thought process is to ensure that we can meet those budgetary needs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, moving on to item E. District matters, item number 1, public request for dedication of district property in recognition of Jenny Holding. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
I have some comments.
Yep.
I'm not sure that there's anyone in this room who served with Jenny, other than myself.
I did.
You served at home?
At home, yeah.
Oh,
We delivered the meeting minutes to all the board members.
okay. All right.
You were the worker bees behind
So,
that.
I appreciate your comments, and I agree with many of them. But I also want to point out that where Jenny and I butted heads during our service together was with her policy of offering enriched benefits to our unionized employees instead of salary increases, which has now put our fire department's future in jeopardy. That's the one thing that I had a problem with, and we are now having to wrestle with. Having said that, I did work with her, and I worked with her closely on negotiations, with one exception, and also on personnel committee issues, etc. And I absolutely agree with your comments about her dedication, her energy, and her creativity. I just wanted to put it down as a note that also, due to the issue of offering benefits instead of wage increases, we do have a very difficult future in front of us for our fire department. But otherwise, I am not going to block or in any way impede having an honorarium posted on a facility here. I noted on our way in, we've already given up the community center, which I think would have been most appropriate. But the pool is what's been suggested?
Yeah, if, so, kind of going over some of the memo I put in here, obviously you saw the letter submitted, and just to be clear, by the way, these are Ms. Boulding's children who've driven here from out of town to attend this as well, so in a second they'll have a chance to introduce themselves, I'm sure. Luke and I certainly talked and looked at areas. This went through the Park and Rec Commission, and what we had decided is, one, to your point in that, you know, looking at what specifically was requested here, this building, as well as the rooms in this building, have already been dedicated in honor of various past contributors to the district. The pool, however, has not. There are a couple of plaques inside the pool, one that just recognizes a longtime pool commissioner, another one that recognizes a former lifeguard who passed away at a very young age. But the facility itself is not dedicated. What Luke and I had talked about was, and shared with the commission, was placing a plaque immediately outside the pool doors in honor and memory of Genevieve Boulding. To be very clear, we're not recommending, you know, we're gonna rebrand the pool. It's not gonna be called the Boulding, you know, it'll still be the Marinwood pool, but there'll be a very nice plaque placed outside the doors that recognize her contributions to the district, who she is, as well as a memorial.
That's all I have, it's good.
Okay. Well, I missed her by a year when I started here, and so the stories that I've heard over the years, you know, Jeff is always a good curmudgeon. But I think that I appreciate you guys. Well, would you have to introduce yourselves, by the way?
Yeah, so I'll start over here and go with my thing. I'm Sally Boulding-Sutter, so my oldest sister's not here. So we were born and raised, they moved in to their home on Miller Creek when I was still in my mom's belly, so, you know, in 1957. So this place, we were all kind of born and raised in Marinwood. I had a snack bar when I was, it was the old school community center, working, we were on the swim team, and I had a snack bar when I was 11, and we were, so much part of the community, in the community center, and all were part of the building and the saving of the open space and really the building of the community as we know it today. So, Ellen?
And I'm Alan Golding, and thank you for this honor of being here. The community hasn't changed much since I've been here, just driving around. This is really a jewel, and coming from somebody who sort of stepped back, lived in some other places, and coming back, it really is a jewel. And the open space, the homes, the community, just the vibes and the feeling. This is a really special place, not just for me, but I'm sure for everyone who lives here.
And I'm Alice, I'm the baby of the family. And I want to thank the board for considering dedicating a piece of this property to my mom. And Eric, thank you so much for the last 2 years of really helping us out with this endeavor. My mom was so passionate about this place. I mean, she was the one who was knocking on the doors, trying to get people to sign, to get this place built. And then she saw it built, she saw it remodeled, and as Sally was saying, our summers, this was our life, and then I took over the snack bar and worked for her. So,
We still have an opening at the snack.
yeah, and we used to, be in competition with the fire department because they had that soda machine, right? And then we undercut them on price, so but with the teaching the tiny tots how to swim and just, this, my mom taught us how to have passion for this place too. So it just would be such an honor if something could be, put in her name here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and coming and for pursuing this and following this through, because I know dealing with government can sometimes be an arduous and lengthy process.
Yeah.
Are there anything else from the board?
Just as a newcomer, I've only been here about 5 years, and so thank you for helping your mom build this place to where it is today, because it's part of the reason we purchased here, so thank you.
Any questions, comments from the public? Stephen?
Yeah, I'd like to make a few comments. First of all, thanks for coming here, and I think it's touching. She obviously put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the community at the critical moments in its history, which is great. Any community is many people, and it's the passions of the individuals that make the great community that we have today. I'm from a part of the country, New England. I think Jeff's from New England as well. The town I was raised in was first settled in the 1600s. And so my scope of time and community is very deep. And I guess while I understand, this is their mom, and Jenny was here at the beginning, and I wasn't, by the way, that we need to scale the tribute in such a way that allows the community to have further contributions, because who knows, maybe we'll have the Eric Drykosen wing of the building or something like that. We need to, I'm a little concerned that we're doing too many tributes, and we need to kind of think in terms of long term, and certainly Jenny should have something of high, it should be noted that she was here at the beginning, but as far as renaming the park or renaming the pool, I think that's maybe we need to think about how we can honor lots of heroes in our community and make sure that we also honor Jenny. So I guess I'm a little concerned about the scale of what is being proposed here.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the public? All right, I'm going to call the question. You look like you have something to say.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when this proposal came up originally, we were batting around benches and things like that. And it sort of got caught up in that argument or that whole debate about what the appropriate means of honoring people were. And I don't think it was intentional that we sidetracked anything for Jenny Bolding. It was because we were trying to get a policy in place to really understand this, and I think to some extent this is what Stephen is talking about. But having said that, it's very, very difficult for me, despite my earlier comments, to think of anyone who's more deserving of this accolade or this dedication than Jenny Bolding was. And again, it's a little bit sobering, again, back to what Stephen just said, that the building, the community center, which I think would be the most appropriate place dedicated to Jenny, has already been taken. So I have no problems at all with the pool being next in line, and I think it's well deserved. That's all I have to say.
Yes,
Well,
well said.
I'm just gonna say, and they can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is Jenny was one of the key kind of drivers behind getting the pool facility built. So the fact that Marinwood has a pool, it was one of her kind of brainchilds of bringing this in and starting the pool commission back when there was a pool commission and everything else, which is part of the other reason why we cited more towards the pool facility as a lasting structure.
Thank you. Well, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to item E2, fiscal year 2018-19 proposed budget amendments. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Discussion. Or Eric, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I can lead in. I mean, I gave you a decent lead-in memo here, at least I tried to, with some detailed notes. With that said, I get it, this is kind of confusing. This is obviously something that we do every year, and the purpose between doing it is, last May, when our best guess of what the year looked like would be versus where we actually are now, so we don't wind up with too incredible wide range of variance, especially within the services and supplies. One of the things that I realized that causes confusion in here is when we were talking about the rec program. I don't want this to be positioned or viewed that the summer rec program has underperformed. It certainly hasn't. The issue with the summer rec program is that we budget for the upcoming program, however, our program's split fiscal year. So what wound up happening is we literally lost a week within this fiscal year when the school district calendars kind of shifted. So typically it's always been 7 weeks after the fiscal year, 3 weeks before the next fiscal year. Well, this year it's 7 weeks after, but only 2 before. So it all, for lack of a better term, certainly comes out in the wash. And if you look at summer performance as a whole on a seasonal basis as opposed to a fiscal year basis, it's actually a lot cleaner. It's just when you're trying to divide it into a fiscal year, we calculated that we probably garner somewhere around $100,000 of revenue from the summer programs per week. If not a little bit more, but looking at where the numbers are coming in, I didn't think we needed to pull that much. I think we'll be safe. I also want to note that this is the first time in several years we're actually increasing expenditures while decreasing revenue, so it has a total net revenue over expenditure negative $65,000. Budgetarily, that'll still end the year with a net gain of approximately $300,000 from a budget perspective. Last year we ended close to 6, the year before that was 4 when it was said and done. And I would assume we will still outperform this $300,000 number when it's said and done. We did add a little bit through current secured as well as interest. Those are very conservative estimates. I actually most likely expect those to come in higher, but I didn't want to, I tend to play with the budget conservatively, and I wanted to keep it that way. Otherwise, if there's any kind of specific questions about any of the relative moves in here, this isn't cooking the books, this isn't fancy accounting, this is very standard business practice, and this is typically the time of year in which we do it.
All right, questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple. You know, I come from the private sector, not the public sector, so excuse me already.
Please.
But generally speaking, fiscal years are defined around the least busy time of the year. What's wrong with this picture?
I have often proposed that federal fiscal year, October 1st would be ideal for us, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, every other
It's a
government
government
agency,
standard, right?
the county operates on the same fiscal year, and we kind of fall in line with that and always have.
Yeah, we no longer interface directly to the county accounting system, correct?
Not entirely. We don't use it as our accounting system of record, but we still rely on the county accounting system. All the property taxes, things like that, still happen within the same fiscal year. All of that goes, our general fund is still maintained through the county accounting system. We maintain our own books, so we're not doing anything other than recording deposits or transfers between funds or something along those lines. And then that's where we go to get all of the data from when they do any level of tax deposits on districts we have.
Okay, well, you know, I'm sure that part of that was just being cynical, but the other half is just celebrating the fact that we are on our own set of books, and some of the things that I'm seeing both here and in the budget for next year are consolidation of accounts and a little bit more sanity around how we are accounting, and that's good news.
Thank you.
Let's see.
And I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
On being out of the county system.
Yeah.
It would have been a nightmare if we would have transitioned with them.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, building plan review for fire. Are we increasing the number, or are we forecasting increasing the number of reviews, or are we changing the fee structure? It's just,
The fee structure hasn't necessarily been, I don't have a great answer for you, other than, to put it bluntly, ever since we've kind of switched and Santafeld's been managing it, it seems like they're coming through in a much more regular fashion.
I see, okay, they're being more active about it. Okay, the reason for the significant budgeted increase in rec miscellaneous revenue.
Is that's where have been putting all of, that's almost exclusive to CSI rebates for solar.
Ah, okay, all right, I did not understand that. And then, I'm sort of having to jump ahead to the P&R report in asking this question. But for all intents and purposes, it appears that the changes in the budget are either on the capital expense spreadsheet for this year or are being amended to account for surprises. The exception is this latest saltwater generator, which I think we've been replacing one a year or something like that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you skip the next year's budget, or are we still on the amendment?
We're on the amendments.
Okay.
You know, because I'm wondering why there isn't an amendment if we are replacing a saltwater generator every year and we are adding a fourth saltwater generator.
Because we had 3, and we're rotating through basically once a year is what we anticipate the need, and when we add a 4th, it might actually be able to slow that down, but until we run a 4th, we won't really know.
Okay, but we would pay, would we not, for the replacement of a saltwater generator, and we would pay for the 4th one to go in, would we not?
Right.
Okay, so that would be $7,000 instead of $3,500. That's my question. So would there be another $3,500 amendment necessary? Because it says in the P&R report, we expect to have a 4th generator in this spring. That would be 18-19.
No, because we would have already budgeted for that. For the.
Really?
Yeah, I'd have to look at it,
Okay.
to be honest with you, I don't have those levels of detail, so you're kind of, that's why you're moving around between different topics, which is why I asked the question that I asked.
It has to do with the amendments.
Yeah, I don't, in looking at it, I didn't see any of that as needing to be amended. It doesn't go into, you know, the generators don't go into a capital outlay or anything like that, it goes into a pool maintenance, and when we looked at the pool maintenance, there was room within that to do what we needed to do.
Okay, all right, they show up on the capital expense report, that's why I brought it up. Okay, no further questions.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So on the big spreadsheet that we put out a few months ago. Right, yeah, everything on there doesn't necessarily go under capital outlay, but that's just all the things we know that also have routine, you know, like the fire engine lease is on there as well, but that goes under long-term debt. It's, the things that we know are getting routinely replaced, and some things fall underneath that $5,000 threshold, which is when we capitalize and depreciate. So that's the number I'm using to put something into a capital outlay versus a different category.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't following what you were saying.
That's,
Once I caught on to the spreadsheet part, I knew exactly where you were going.
Okay.
Other comments, questions from the board?
Questions?
Okay, comments, questions from the public? Linda?
Yeah, I was thinking back to the time when I was working as a systems analyst, computer programmer for an insurance company. And this kind of reminds me of what we used to call in my department, cooking the books. And I know that's not what it is, but every month what my insurance area was, we would make manual adjustments, and that's what these are. It's like manual adjustments to make the budget numbers look more like the actuals. And what I was thinking is, if you keep the budget numbers as they were when you made them, like this month or next month, and didn't make any of these adjustments, wouldn't it be better to see, as we are budgeting for the next fiscal year, where our numbers were off, and then we would, it would help us to budget better? I mean, when you're making adjustments 2 or 3 times during the year in order to match your actuals, it's sort of like changing, well, it's changing the budget as you go along, because you're seeing the actuals, and so you change the budget to make you look better. And that's all it seems like to me. I just think it would be a better learning experience if we knew at the very end. Is something funny?
No, we're
Is someone
listening.
laughing at me?
No, we're listening,
Well, obviously Leah wasn't, because she was laughing.
okay?
Okay.
Are you finished?
No, I was in the
Okay,
middle of the
go ahead.
sentence. All I'm saying is that I think it would be a better educational experience if we didn't manually change the numbers throughout 2 or 3 months, you know, the 6 months of the first of the year. It just seems like it's cooking the books to me. That's all. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I'm finished now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond? Is it okay to respond?
I don't know that it's necessary. Do you feel like it's necessary?
I'll be happy to talk to you about that offline. But thank you for the comment.
All right, any other comments from the public? Stephen?
Yeah, so I just, first of all, want to understand what has transpired. Eric is basically, I guess we've been doing this for a while, where we have the county's accounting system, and then we have a local accounting system. I'm trying to understand, so the local accounting system, or the county accounting system is all the property tax, all the revenue we get from the county, is that correct? And then the local accounting system is for our business operations and special stuff. Is that basically the way it works? When you said you normalize it to the accounting, I guess I'm trying to understand where the business aspect, because we do generate quite a bit of business. I guess that's managed in-house here. It doesn't go through the county's accounting system. Is that correct? It gets reported to as the county as revenue, but not the actual nuts and bolts of expenses.
Our entire accounting system of record is held in-house.
And this is not a back and forth where you're asking questions, this is a comment period, okay? So
Okay, so I needed clarity. So really, actually, the question goes back to earlier comments, because, we have lots of business, we have lots of expenses, but we don't know what's net, what's gross, what are expenses, and it's not really actually being reported, and it's not being seen as a budget except as a gross number, which basically does not give you any information at all on the financial performance of our business operations. And I specifically would like to know more about the ARC program. I didn't understand it. I know it's a good event, but I guess we'll wait for that, those questions later. I don't quite understand if we don't have a handle on our income and expenses from business operations, how we can plan for the other, our total budgets. I mean, there's two sets of books here, and that can get very problematic. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the public? All right, bring this back to the board. I would call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to the draft district budget for fiscal year 2019 to 2020. This is just a draft for review, so it's not an action item. So do we have questions, comments for Eric? I've spoken before.
Yeah, all my questions have been answered.
Okay. All right, any questions, comments from the public on the draft district budget for next fiscal year?
Yeah, I have a couple short ones. I'm not a budget person, and I try to understand this every year, and every year I think I know more. And I'm a detail-oriented person, which you all know, I'm very verbose, and I like the detail. So I'm gonna ask a couple of questions about detail. And I don't know where you have in your budget the detail for a sheriff. Where does this fall under? Do we have a budget for having a sheriff in our office, in our meeting every month? Is that in the budget? Okay, that's one question. Second question is, I know that for the last 2 years, there was something like $35,000 in the budget for the fire department safety utility pickup truck. And I thought, and I couldn't find my notes, so I apologize for not remembering something from a few months ago, but I thought that a certain amount of money was going to be budgeted for a utility safety, pickup truck vehicle that goes up into the hills and saves our community from injury and accident and death from heart attacks and things like that, which 2 heart attacks did happen last year. So I thought it was in the budget, and now it seems to be disappearing, or has gone, and I don't know if it was ever in any adjustments. Mr. D, do you know, was it in an adjustment that you made where you took out that particular item?
No, it was never adjusted out.
You never took it out?
It was never adjusted out. It was not in this current year's budget, and it's not in the budget that we put together now.
Okay, thank you. And then the other one is about Measure A, and this is where I'm a little confused because sometimes in the billing, I see that you have billing for Hansel, the architect, and he's up to over $30,000 for the last year in his billing, and that's listed under Measure A, but I don't see anywhere in the budget where you've got Measure A listed. I don't see the park maintenance, the new park maintenance facility listed, and I don't see the architect's, budget listed, and I know that you don't have numbers, and I know that you can't get numbers because you need to do a lot more research to figure out what's going on, and you need to get through the design phase for the, part of it to see what's going on. But I would think that somewhere you would have in your budget something called Measure A expenditures. And I know that last year you did say, when you were talking about using Measure A funds for the park maintenance facility, and I think at the time there was something like $257,000 in the Measure A bucket, you were talking about possibly using the leftover money to help out with the swimming pool. And now I see you wanna use $50,000 or $60,000 for the kitchen in the community center.
We're gonna move on, that's
Okay,
your time.
but I'm asking, where
I
is
understand.
this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your
But
comment. This is
can
not
I ask a question?
This is not a question and answer period.
Oh, so I don't get any answers.
You can ask those questions offline like the rest of us did, okay?
Oh, so I could ask this question of Mr. D in an email offline? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Stephen?
Yeah, back to the maintenance facility. Last year, when you hired the mysterious architect who turned out to be Bill Hansel, our former CSD director, it was said that it was gonna be, I think it was either 10,000 or 12,000 all in for his services, and now we're up to 3 times the expense. We have asked for budgets, we've asked for projections, you have not provided them. I'm gonna call BS on not knowing how much you're looking at. If that's true, then you're not actually doing your jobs as stewards of the public funds. But I don't understand how you can ask for more taxes, how you can be thought of as serious, fiscal managers if this major expense, you have no idea how much it costs. I believe that you do, and you're withholding that information contrary to public policy. And you build a house, you buy a car, whatever you do, major purchases, people plan for those purchases. So guys, if you approve this budget, you're making a mistake.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I just wanted to echo Linda's request to carve out the Measure A inflow and the associated expenditures and how that relates to the 2019 and 2020 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Okay. Measure A is not incorporated into the operating budget, never has been. It's a completely separate fund. It's held in a completely separate account. It doesn't attach or connect with our general fund. In fact, I believe last year Measure A is based on work plans, not on budgets, and they have to be approved by the county. They're done once a year, and typically that happens in May or June. And if you look at the archives, you'll have a complete record. It was either the May or June board meeting of the last year that went through and showed all Measure A revenues, all Measure A expenditures throughout the years of the history of Measure A, as well as anticipated revenue for the coming year. That will again happen specific to Measure A.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to E4, Resolution 2019-02, increasing the amount of the special tax for fire protection.
Can I slow us down?
Oh, yep.
I'm sorry. I would actually like to bring it back to the budget for a second. If we
Okay,
could.
sorry.
One of the things I specifically wanted to mention here, and I wanted to get some board direction on, not necessarily an action item, because it would have to become an action item later. Within this budget and this draft, I am, management is proposing a 3% cost of living adjustment to the base wages of the park staff. That's gonna have a total burdened cost, meaning for the year, everything that it touches, workers' comp, pension, payroll taxes, of approximately $6,500. And before I continue to move forward with that, obviously I would bring it forward. It would need to be something that would be approved as a completely separate action item, because it would actually adjust the approved pay schedules, salary schedules for that position. I just wanted to look for a little bit of board direction on moving that forward, or not. Personally, I can talk all day long on why it should happen, but I don't think I need to convince anybody.
Okay, those numbers are already incorporated into the
Into
draft
this,
budget.
into this draft, correct.
Okay. So that'll be, what's it been, 2-3 years?
Since 2016.
2016,
It had been 3 years, they got a 2%, and it was several years before that.
all at top step.
All of them are top step. Our least tenured park staff is 16 years. Our highest tenured park staff, I believe, is 26 years, so they're not eligible for any other levels of step increases, anything like that. If we don't make salary adjustments, they sit where they are, where they're at.
Okay, so that's something you can bring to the board for approval at a future meeting.
I would assume. Good, okay. Well, there's no-
Anything else before I?
No, sorry, I just wanted to get that out into a public setting. I wanted to make sure that it was very transparent that that was included in here, and that my intention is to bring that forward as a pay schedule adjustment. Those are typically done in June for the coming fiscal year, because you run via the fiscal year and need to be approved every year.
Okay. Alrighty, moving on to item E4, resolution 2019-02, increasing the amount of the special tax for fire protection and emergency services. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion, board,
This is more housekeeping.
Can I give you a,
Eric, why don't you,
can I give you a 2-minute
yeah,
2 minutes.
on what this is? This is all part of the voter-approved special assessment. Written into the assessment is an annual CPI increase. However, the board needs to recognize the CPI increase and then subsequently approve increasing for the current year. So again, this is not doing anything that wasn't already approved by the voters and is written into the measure itself. Same holds true for the next one as well. CPI ended the year at 4.5%, and that's what it's been set at here, and you can kind of see what the adjustments are within the resolution itself. But this is this is done every year. It is written into the measure that the voters approve.
Thank you.
do you have a ballpark estimate of the increased income that would generate upon approval? And I'm assuming it has been built into the budget, the
Yep.
draft budget?
Yep. I can give you that, actually more than just a ballpark, yeah. If you look under park, under special tax assessment 4120610, it would go from 366 to 383. So roughly, what is it, 66, 76, 86, roughly a little under 20,000 total increase on that. And on the fire side is a little bit trickier because the park is based on units and those numbers don't change. The fire side, this isn't going to actually be a final number because I won't have those numbers until I get the final assessor's report. It is based off of square footage, but if you look at the same corresponding special tax assessment line for the fire department revenue, being, 4120610, you go from 1.097 million to 1.15 million, but that also incorporates the increases in square footage that were realized after the fiscal year when the special taxes were finalized with the county finance department.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from the board for Eric? Any comments from the public?
This is for the fire tax?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So, yes, I have something to say.
Stephen?
So, we don't know what's going on in the fire department, fire commission. The reason, ever since you've changed the reporting, and apparently, I didn't know this, but you don't record the meetings, which I cannot see a reason why you wouldn't do that. They are spending a huge
Stephen,
portion
could you
of the
please stay on
budgets.
topic here?
No, I'm actually, thank you very much, but I'm actually speaking towards the tax request, okay? We don't know how our money is being spent or allocated. We have no information, and until there's better reporting, we should not approve a tax increase. The second point I'd like to make is now that we have Chief Gray. I mean, I think the ultimate is gonna be that we're gonna be merging with San Rafael. And one of the challenges that's we're gonna be faced with, I believe we're paying more on a per
So again,
unit.
we're talking about the resolution.
I understand
That's
that,
all
but what
we're talking about.
you're interrupting me again, could I continue to speak?
As long
Or
as
is
it's
it your
just about the resolution.
I'm talking about the resolution, so please don't editorialize me, okay? That is not good decorum, okay? That's not very polite. I'm sure you'll agree. We need to normalize our tax base as a precondition of being able to merge those departments. I believe we're paying more per unit than San Rafael, and we need to look at that. And so instead of just reflexively asking the taxpayers pay more all the time, there needs to be some planning going on for the eventual future that we have before us. Vote no.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item E5, Resolution 2019-03, increasing the amount of the special tax for park open space and street landscape maintenance. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right. Any same housekeeping as before? And Eric's explanation holds on this as well. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Stephen?
Since our business operations are murky, the need for tax revenue is uncertain. It's easy actually just to ask for more money, but there is a responsibility as stewards here to make sure that our money is being spent wisely and towards the long-term needs of the district. I say vote no on this because we actually don't have a handle on our park revenue, our park, the recreation revenue. Maybe you do and you're not saying anything.
Any other comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Great, moving on to item F, Fire Department matters. Item number 1, draft minutes of the Fire Commission meeting on April 2nd. Anyone have any comments or questions?
I just wanted to say that Jim came in from PG&E and it was super interesting, and if possible, I don't know if you could speak to the board.
Point of
about
order,
what-
I'm sorry, would you please speak up? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said that Jim from PG&E came in and his presentation was very interesting, and considering that we have lots of power lines, I was thinking that maybe the board could hear, especially with the changes in the clearance for the power lines that PG&E is going to be cutting due to the fires. It might be something that we should be interested in, especially with where our park is in terms of power lines and various things and the open space and our neighborhood. But it was just very interesting and informative, and I'm happy to give you guys, I have the PowerPoint here that printed it out, and I can give you guys commentary too. And I think Eric probably has.
I wasn't at the meeting.
Did he give you?
No, he would have sent it to
No.
anybody to Chief Gray, and Chief Gray is
Is
getting
still-
back out on it personally.
Yes. Okay, but it was very interesting, so, and possibly we could reach out to him and have him speak to the board.
Yeah, and I could certainly look at what would be a decent month to do it in a board setting, or even more appropriately, potentially setting up more of a community meeting or incorporating them into some of the community meetings that they're already working on and establishing.
Yeah, and that's what that was like my second thing of, if the board thought that this was something that would be helpful in order of creating a Firewise community and getting people more interested in participating in that. Because those changes are really gonna change how we look at our landscaping in our yards. So, it was just very interesting. And I am continuing to push that we try to become a fire-wise community and get the commissioners to possibly speak to you about how to divide up Marinwood into multiple fire-wise communities so that it's easier to tackle